to find your purpose. You've been told your entire life to find the right job, to take the right personality test, to find the exact intersection between your gifts and what the world needs. But this is a partial truth that will keep you trapped or keep you looping for years or even decades, because this conditioning assumes that your purpose is a thing that you have to do or find out there. I'm going to share a powerful inside-out approach to accessing your unique purpose that doesn't rely on and in fact liberates you from anything outside of yourself. You can be very successful on the outside and still be dealing with this. In fact, it's very common amongst high achievers. Before I share, we need to understand first how so many of us were conditioned to create outside-in lives versus lives from the inside out. So I've mapped out here the 4 stages of inauthentic development. So the first part here is we've got unconscious conditioning, creating an inauthentic self. So what happens here, you imagine you're a child, you come into this world with mom and dad, and you're dependent on them for your survival. So this means that, as you begin to develop and begin to maybe show aspects of yourself, if that is disapproved of, then you're beginning to shape yourself based on mom and dad's approval. So now you go to school with this conditioning and you're being approved of for getting specific grades in specific subjects. And this begins to continue to kind of perpetuate potentially this inauthentic self. So unfortunately, most of our parents in society were praising us for obedience and achievement, which is a very narrow scope. And it doesn't really allow for the natural, authentic expression and development of a young person to come online and to come alive. So in response to this unconscious conditioning, we create a self that was based on outside-in approval. Dr. Gabor Mate speaks beautifully to what we're talking about here. He said that human beings have 2 needs. One is for secure attachment, and the other is for authenticity. And when authenticity threatens secure attachment wins. So this means that if there was an authentic part of you that was coming out to be expressed, but your parents didn't approve of it, then you're more likely to subsidate that need in order to appease your parents and be safe. Which over time, as a child, you might think, well, that's not such a big deal, but you propagate that out over going to school and you're 8, 9, 10, 11, you grow into a teenager, now you grow into an adult that has spiraled this pattern out into creating an inauthentic life. And then you're wondering why you can't find your purpose or your community or a partner that feels true and aligned for you. Because the inauthentic self seeks to replicate itself, this is what the self system does. Then from there, as you're turning from a teen into an adult, you're still acting from those patterns, which create this unconscious replication. And this is subjective. So there's no right, wrong, good, or bad here. So you could have a family of doctors and academics, and you're born into that family, but your authentic self has a desire to be in regenerative farming. But because you're from a family of academics, they don't approve of that. And then you appease that need and you go down the track line of academia and to be a doctor, and then find yourself in your mid-30s or early 30s feeling like you're living a deeply inauthentic life. But vice versa, you could have a family of farmers and you grow up into that family and they're expecting you to take on the farm, but that child has an authentic desire to be a doctor and move to the city. So as you can see, it's not about what's right or wrong. It's about the child or that part of us getting to follow the authentic pursuits and interests that create the pattern of an authentic life. That unconscious conditioning leads to the creation of an inauthentic self. That inauthentic self then replicates itself. And no matter which life path you're taking here, leads to an inauthentic life. So that's why you can see celebrities are highly successful business people. On the outside, their lives can look amazing, but on the inside, they might actually be feeling, depressed or deeply unhappy. But don't worry, there is good news. We have the 4 stages of authentic development. And it doesn't matter whether or not you had these parents which supported your authentic development. We can actually learn the skills of how to give that to ourselves. So we're going to begin with step 1. We have self-reflective development. So self-reflective development, what do I mean here? Well, if you imagine a child, again, coming into the world with mom and dad, that there's enough safety and attunement and seeing of the parents as an environment upon which the child is not just rewarded for their behavior. So an example of this, imagine a young child, 3 or 4 years old, comes up to mom and dad with a painting that they've just created. Instead of saying, "You're the best artist in the world, that's an amazing painting," and then turning around to doing whatever they were doing, instead asking more questions that evoke the self-reflective capacities of the child. So that might be, "Oh, wow, tell me about this painting you've created. Why did you create this? What do you love about it? What are you trying to express here?" And then that capacity allows the child to then reflect and be rewarded for so, as opposed to just being rewarded and told you're the best or you're amazing, you're an amazing artist, which kind of begins to tend to create a more fixed mindset, as well as starts to, create that reward of external validation versus internal authentic approval. So in that type of environment where your authentic expression, however that might be, which might even be not the norm based on what your parents are, what your parents are used to, but they're open that you are a unique individual who is going to have different interests and needs and values that might be a little different from your parents, but they are secure enough in themselves that they're able to hold this differentiation with a sense of curiosity and openness, which creates the authentic self-expression. So this begins to create an authentic self as opposed to an inauthentic self. So the authentic self is beginning to make choices based on its internally felt truth versus needing the safety and approval of parents and caregivers and teachers, etc. So don't worry if you're listening to this and you're like, "I didn't get this environment." Most of us didn't. At the end of this video, I'm going to share with you a way that you can actually intervene and give yourself this exact piece. So once you're in touch with your authentic self, you have a connection to your values, your own experience, your own heart, your own mind. From that place, you begin to actually create creative and conscious development, meaning that your kind of self-reflective capacities are online. You feel safe enough to be yourself. Your exploratory system is online, so you feel safe to explore and make mistakes, which is useful whether you're in business or you're an artist, a musician, no matter what field you're in. Having the capacity to be able to think differently is actually one of the greatest skills and tools that we could have, especially in this moment in time. So this capacity is actually beginning to generate itself to itself, for itself, as itself, and in response, in an adaptive response to the environment, which allows you to be to really bring forth the best of your skills and the best of your intelligence in a way that feels authentic and true to you. This then creates the authentic life. So this authentic life is then kind of replicating itself and adapting in real time in a way that feels true to you. And as you can imagine, finding your purpose, people think it's this one big thing. And what we've been sharing in this video is actually, it's more 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 small authentic actions that begin to create an adaptive authentic life that is aligned with your values, that is aligned with your heart, that is aligned with your gifts. But it's coming from the inside out as opposed to the outside in. So your purpose is not out there. It's inside. And it's these small daily actions, moment by moment, choosing your truth, choosing alignment, moment by moment, that actually allows for you to create a life that is deeply meaningful and deeply fulfilling to you. So in order to do this, there needs to be a level of safety built within one's own nervous system to be able to be completely okay with someone else disapproving of what you are or who you are or what you're doing, but having enough internal integrity to be able to hold that as that's happening in real time, because people are naturally going to disagree with you. And especially if you're having creative and innovative ideas, they're most likely going to go against the norm. So this internalized sense of safety in the nervous system is an essential piece to begin to build into your nervous system, into your self system, so you can create enough safety and trust within in order for the seed of that natural expression to blossom. So those are the skills of emotional regulation, nervous system regulation. That's the first piece. The second piece is also learning the skills of self-reflection. So as we talked about before, having the parent there who would reflect on what it is that you're doing is actually learning how to deepen that skill set yourself through meditation and journaling. those two activities allow you to reflect on what is most important, what is most meaningful to you, and you begin to build and strengthen those self-reflective capacities, whilst at the same time allowing your nervous system into a deeper sense of connection and safety for your authentic expression to come out to the world. A great question to ask yourself is, if people would love you no matter what would you do? Who would you be? How would you show up? And the chances are this is the part of you that's been whispering in the background for years or decades about certain activities, about certain ways of being, about certain ways that you might want to express yourself. It might be a completely different career than you're in right now. Begin allowing yourself to explore that, and then begin learning how to create a nervous system that can feel safe enough to express that life, and allow yourself the skills of meditation and journaling to continue to allow and deepen that relationship, that self-reflective relationship with yourself. And then from that space, you're going to begin creating an authentic self, which is going to self-replicate into an authentic life.